Good morning, everybody, and welcome to Coffee and Football, presented by Vaughn Lane. I'm your host, Blake Monroe, where I'm joined each and every morning by Bobby Burton and Jerry Hamilton. Be sure to tell us where you're checking in from, what you're drinking, get your questions in. It's also worth noting we're 79 days away from kickoff in Columbus when the Longhorns take on Ohio State. So very cool there. Tell us who your favorite number 79 is. Of course, we said yesterday, guys, Tony Hill's 79, and we'll get into some more of them later. I also want to make mention before we get started, our provider this morning seems to be having a couple of technical difficulties. So if we kind of drop in and out for a split second, it's not you going crazy. It's the technical difficulties.
Nobody's tripping on acid. This is real.
Yeah, that's correct. Oh man, but we got a lot to talk about this morning. We got a lot of good stuff today, and let's actually start with the recruiting. And Jerry, I'll let you open.
Yeah, so there's a 5-star visitor on campus yesterday, and he is one of the best players in the 26 class that I've seen, and that is Trenton Henderson. Trenton Henderson's out of Pensacola Catholic. This is a picture of him I took. I was at his spring jamboree there in May during my Florida trip, and look, he is a dog. He is super impressive. I think he's one of the best prospects in America. Texas has been trying to get him on campus for a while. Kenny Baker gone to see him. Alan Clark went to see him. There's not many guys that I go see and they kind of exceed my expectations. They're already ranked really high. This was one of them. So he was on campus unofficially for the first time yesterday. So that was big for Texas to get him on campus. So he's already made official visits to Auburn, LSU, Michigan. He has Florida this weekend. And now the question becomes, will Texas get him on campus for an official visit the 20th through 22nd? He's had USC tentatively scheduled. I think there's a decent chance that he makes an official visit to Texas, but I want to say the but part. Even if we believe he's going to have that visit scheduled, he's got to still come back and get there, because this has happened on official visits set up before, and then they get later in the recruitment. But here's the main thing: Texas got him on campus. They made an impression on him. I think there's a good shot that he comes back for an OV June 20th through 22nd. That official visit weekend is now looking like the one, honestly, for Texas in this cycle. It's up to 21 guys if you count Trenton Henderson. James Johnson was added, and Paris Melvin, and then Chase Calico changed his. So that last weekend's had some big additions. But this is one of the best players in the country. It goes to the point we always talk about, and some people hate the term recruit through the whistle. This is one of those guys. I mean, I was there in mid-May for his spring game, and he point blank told me, I don't think I'm going to go visit Texas before I make a decision. He said, if I still have something in the season, I didn't even write about it. I mentioned it on here that, hey, I was by there, and he says he's not going to visit. I didn't really write anything about it because he was like, look at him there. I mean, he's playing
defensive end guarding a wide receiver.
Yeah. So I didn't have a lot of positive feelings like he'd get on campus when I went through there in mid-May, late May, whatever it was. But this is why you keep recruiting guys. And this is why, and we're going to show you an interview with Kohen Brown. People are already mentioning it. And I think the interview with Kohen Brown, it tells you everything you need to know about Texas football and recruiting when we get to that. Everything that kid says in this interview, how much of it we have, if you haven't seen it, we'll show that. But this is a very positive development for Texas. We already like the edge board. Now I love the edge board. I mean, this kid's a stud.
Well, first of all, I wrote an article this morning I want to talk about, but first I want to say this. I'm a little envious here. Texas pecan roasted dripped coffee, chorizo, eggs, and hash browns. Dude, that sounds like the breakfast of champions right there. What I was going to say, Jerry and Blake, in my conversation or my article this morning on Texas football, you never get there's never a dull moment when Steve Sarkisian is your head coach in recruiting. I mean, he's always got something going on behind the scenes, something's happening, etc. But what I would say is that there's like an evolution or a transition going on. We all know Texas has had very talented teams of late. The NFL draft can attest to that. Okay. But beyond that, and what I wanted to say that I think is important is that, look, he didn't just go out and rest on his laurels. He went out and hired Alan Clark, who is now bringing in defensive ends, Jerry, from, let's say, California, Texas, Florida, Louisiana, Georgia. Am I missing away? Mississippi?
New Jersey.
And New Jersey. Okay, so the way to do that, the way to keep improving, in my opinion, and evolve as a program is to have him, is to add people like that to your staff that just increases your ability as a recruiting power. And I want to add this one last piece because I think it's important. Okay. Texas, a lot of their commitments and draft picks the last couple of years have been Adonai Mitchell or Matthew Golden or Andrew Makuba. Some key guys have been transfer portal guys. I think the evolution that we may be seeing, Jerry and Blake, is that Texas is unlikely to go as heavy in the portal going forward now that they're actually getting a higher end guy coming out of high school. That's what I think the reality of it is.
Well, we're going to play that interview from yesterday here in just a moment. But first, Bobby, if you would be so kind to tell everyone about Vaughn Lane.
Oh, yeah, Vaughn Lane. I will absolutely. When you need to travel between major cities in Texas, you're stuck with two flawed options: fly and roll the dice with airport delays, security lines, and packed terminals just to spend 45 minutes in the air. Drive and lose 5 hours to traffic, construction, fatigue, arriving stressed and worn out. Or choose a third way. Vaughn Lane, you arrive at a high-end hotel terminal, no airport chaos, no parking nightmares, no stress, just a few easy steps, and you're boarding in minutes. And what a seat it is, spacious, reclining, wrapped in leather with personal power outlets, fast Wi-Fi, and onboard attendance offering. They are growing their user base astronomically. I've had people come up and talk to me about this and saying that they're giving Vaughn Lane a try and they love it. While you relax or work, the Vaughn Lane operations is behind the scenes, monitoring real-time traffic and adjusting routes to keep you moving efficiently, getting you to your destination rested and on schedule. Vaughn Lane proudly serves Austin, Dallas, Houston, Fort Worth, and San Antonio. They also go to the Woodlands now, I believe, has started up, as well as Plano area. Visit vaughnlane.com and use promo code OTF25 to save $20 off your first ride. Vaughn Lane, elevated regional bus transportation.
Thank you for that, Bobby. And yes, we did have Kohen Brown on yesterday, fellas. A lot of people talking about it in the chat, and we're actually going to play a few minutes of that interview here. If you'll bear with me 1 second, I'm going to get that going.
I'm going to go ahead and overhype this. This is as impressive of an interview as we've had.
Young man really is good, Jerry.
On OTF. This is impressive as we've had.
And let me get your thoughts. Why Texas? Why did you commit to Texas?
Well, first of all, I just like the vision they have. When I came and they showed me the plan they had me, I loved it. Like, they know what they want to use. They know what they use me for. They know how they want to use me. They had it all together, just showing me how to use it. They, like, Coach Stark compared me to Matthew Golden. If you look at my measurables, I'm the same size as him as he went to the draft. And he said, like, our character and all that is kind of the same. So, yes, sir.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, it makes total sense. About 6 foot, 190 pounds. I know you just ran a 10.69
yes,
in the spring as well. So you got the speed.
Yes, sir.
And Kohen, I know I've covered you for a few years. I got to see you last spring. I've got to see you about a month ago. And let me tell you, the development that you've gone on since then has been remarkable. I've been told that you're a guy at Waxahachie that they have to kick out of the gym at times.
Yes,
Can you talk a little bit about your work ethic? What kind of fuels you to improve day to day?
Well, I would say, like, especially like coming up as a freshman and you see all these people doing all these big things, and you want that, especially from a kid, you always want that. And it's only one way to get there. Nothing's going to be handed. So you have to work. So I just learned at a young age that, like, if I want to get where I want to go, I have to work hard. And I got to work harder than everybody else, or I'm not going to get where I want to go. So that's just been feeling me. Like, I got to be better than him. I got to work harder than him, because he could be better than me, but if I'm working harder than him, I believe that I'm better than him. Yes, sir.
Yeah.
Hey, Kohen, let me ask you, because you're one of those guys, man. I remember staying after late in high school, getting that extra work in. what's your favorite kind of drills, man? What drills you doing to get better? Because there's no doubt you're taking a huge leap. What have you focused on specifically that has translated on the field for you and had so much success with?
My speed. So like my freshman year, I wasn't the fastest guy ever. So coming into my sophomore year, I started running track. My time started to pop off, and I'm getting the lab with my speed trainer, Team X Extreme. He's out in Irving. I just started going crazy. I just start grinding with my speed, and that really stands out on my film. I think so.
Yeah.
Kohen, we've seen you line up a lot in the slot. I just want to get an idea of your mentality line up in the slot, because I know you can line up wherever, but when you line up across from a guy playing the nickel and knowing that, like, hey, I can get him on a two-way go. I basically, the game is in your hands. It's under your control at that point. What's the mindset like for you just going up to the line of scrimmage on a given snap like we're going to see right here, even though you're getting a handoff? But knowing kind of the power in your hands, so to say, playing in the slot.
Well, I would say my work ethic comes in that. Like, I work so hard to where when I line in front of somebody, like I'm like, he don't work harder than me. This should be a breeze. Like, he not doing what I'm doing. So that mindset, the confidence, just there, just how much you work. Yes, sir. And then this year you'll see me playing a little bit more outside too. So I won't just be slide. I'll be working in and out. Yes, sir.
Yeah, I want to go back to your official visit, Kohen, just real quick. I know that. Yes, sir. It was just this past week, and it was obviously enough to secure the commitment for Texas. But talk a little bit about your official visit. You know, what kind of stood out? Were you one of the guys that was up on the mic singing karaoke during the Saturday dinner as well? What was the best part for you?
The best part, I would say interacting with the players. Like, because a player, like the coaches, you know, they real, but, you know, some coaches not going to tell the truth all the time. So when you go on a visit, I would say talk to the players because they there living it. Like you're gonna be in their shoes in a year or two, right? So I'm talking to the players and getting their understanding. You can tell, like if you look somebody in the eyes, you can tell when they lying. Everybody was just super real, and they told the truth about everything. Yes, sir.
Which players did you connect with on your visit specifically?
My hosts were Dalen McCutcheon from Lovejoy and Khalid Lockett from Saxe.
Okay.
Yes, sir.
Nice.
Lovejoy.
Good stuff there from Kohen Brown. Jerry, you and I have been doing this a long time. Blake, you've been doing it a fairly good amount of time too. And sometimes you can hear it in their voice, how they prepare and how they think about sports. Jerry, does that make sense to you? Like, and I think you could hear that in his kind of responses there. Guy that said, I need to go work on something. And then he stays after later. That's the mark. I don't know if he's going to be a draft pick or any of that other stuff because there's a difference there. I mean, talent over everything, right? But I think that Kohen Brown's going to win in life. That would be my takeaway from that interview.
Yeah, and if you haven't listened to the whole interview, go listen to that whole interview from last night because we played, I think, about 4 minutes of it. But the most important part of that interview for me was the last 2 minutes. Because he said, one, from a recruiting standpoint, and this is everything we talk about. I've always wanted to play in the SEC. That's where 80% of these kids are at in the state of Texas right now. And that was one. But the most important thing the kid said in the whole interview, Kohen Brown said in the whole interview, was about Texas not offering him early. He was like, I wasn't gonna go into this and being petty and being negative. And because some kids they get that chip on their shoulder. Why didn't you offer me when the other 24 schools did? And they have that chip on their shoulder. And I'm not saying Texas is the absolute best opportunity, but it's where he wanted to be clearly. But kids can miss an opportunity if you don't stay open mind to the process. And if you listen to his response to that question, it's probably as mature response as it was right up there with a Caleb Chester talking about playing corner last year for me with Rod. The way he went about his recruiting process, saying, I wasn't going to be petty. He showed a lot of maturity about the recruiting process. The kid's going to be a winner. I think that is what we talked about. Going into that visit last weekend, he had never sat down with Steve Sarkisian for very long at all. When Sark was around him, Sark made the call, I want this guy in our program, period. I mean, they canceled other guys' official visits that were coming in at receiver. Sark decided this is the type of guy we want in our program. And after that interview, I 100% agree. That guy's a winner. The way he attacks the process, the recruiting process, the way he attacks us every day, those guys help you win games that are really big in January. And that mean you have to be the best player, but you can go make 2 or 3 plays that impact winning the biggest games.
DeAndre Moore, Jordan Whittington, Barron Sorrell, list them. Matthew Goldens, Andrew Makutas. I'm with Jerry. I'm with Jerry on that. I think that you want guys like that in your program. I mean, that's just the bottom line.
Yeah.
And you don't necessarily want everybody to be the same or anything like that, but you need a good, healthy amount of those types of guys.
Yeah. And by the way, so this is what we talk about with recruiting rankings. That kid just went up in my book. Period.
Hey, Jerry, Yaheem Riley's the same way, by the way.
Yeah.
I mean, he was a local kid that didn't let, Texas wasn't all over him from the very get-go. I mean, other teams, same way. So, I mean, I think they're finding those guys, right? They're finding those guys right now.
And by the way, Josie, if you didn't hear the interview, go listen to the last question. Who's the best player he played against? Oh, boy.
Best player he played against?
We got a couple of super chats I want to read real quick before we move on. This first one here from Jerry's Jack Links. Thank you for your generous super chat. It says, RIP Jack and hook 'em, buddy. 2026 Natty for Jack incoming.
Oh, wow. That's awesome.
Yes.
Good for Jack. There we go. That should be the slogan this year for On Texas Football.
By the way, for people that are just coming in, our provider's having a little issue this morning, so we pop in and out. It lasts a second.
And then one other super chat, another very generous one. I want to thank James for that. James Williams says, for Bobby, going to eat a corn dog with mayo when we land at #1 class. And Jerry, get you some beef jerky on the road next time.
Thank you.
Blake, get you some Goodrs for the next commit we get.
There we go. Blake, you need to start wearing some Goodrs.
I need some.
You need to start doing it. You need to start doing it, man. Thank you,
Yeah,
James.
you can't have mine. Boy, these lenses were dirty when I put them on. Jeez. Means you're wearing your Goodrs a lot. There's another ad for them. Your lenses are dirty.
By the way, real quick, I mentioned this yesterday at the very end. We are donating $1,800+ in the memory of Jack Lala to the folks over at Texas One Fund in his memory. That will go through today. I just finalized that and got all the bank account information. I will share that. I want to say this. I will share that on screen, that confirmation with you guys, because I want y'all, when people give money blindly to stuff, I'm not one of those guys that does that very often. When someone does that for me, I want to make sure that y'all see the receipts, et cetera. So, but very, very proud of the OTF community. We raised $1,854 for in the memory of Jack Lala yesterday. So thank y'all for being a part of it. Even if you didn't donate, I know that Jack and a lot of you guys take some real value or extract some value from meeting one another every morning for coffee and football. And so we appreciate it very much. Happy to do this.
And one other super chat. D-Money Can't Get Money. Thank you for your super chat. Says, thank you guys for commemorating Jack. You make it feel like a family here, and we appreciate you guys. I also wanted to ask if Bill Little had an impact on your career.
Well, he did on mine. Bill was when I was in college, he was the sports information director at the University of Texas for football. And then John Bianco came in the year after I left, literally, and became the football SID, and then Bill became the head of the entire department. Bill was a walking encyclopedia of Texas football. I think he was the sports editor of the Daily Texan, either back in the 50s or early 60s. Just a walking, I mean, literally, when I say walking encyclopedia, if I'll say this. So I consulted 3 or 4 guys when I did numbers, when I did, okay, who is the best jersey number ever or player to ever wear these jersey numbers at the University of Texas? Bill Little was my first contact, and by far the most thorough. Okay. That doesn't mean the other guys weren't good. I mean, whether it was Ken Dabbs or Kirk Bowles or some guys that had some history at Texas, Bill Little was the very first guy I contacted, and he was thorough and knew guys that I frankly were before my time. But yeah, he impacted my career because, you know, it was fun. I went to every practice for 4 years, every football practice for 4 years. And at every practice, Bill Little was there. And while I was filming, he would be up there talking with the sports writers, et cetera. Always a good guy to me and very helpful along the way. So rest in peace, Bill Little. We lost him a couple years ago.
All right. Well, on a scheduling note here, we got some time windows released yesterday from Texas. And the flex, as you can see on there, it could be from 2:30 to 3:30 Central or 5 to 7 p.m. Central. Looks like there's 4 flex games on there. But for the most part, guys, we know when the Longhorns are going to play.
Yeah, it's interesting. The one that I would say that is kind of cool is it's going to be a night game at Kentucky. Yeah. Right. So expect the Wildcats to not be very tame at night in Lexington. Back-to-back weekends on the road there, Kentucky and Mississippi State. Look, I'm not a big guy that worries about timing of all these things. I'm more concerned when it comes to timing. I'm more concerned about early in the season and how hot it gets. That 3:15 against UTEP still just blows my mind. I mean, I don't know what kind of person schedules Texas at 3:15 on a Saturday in mid-September, but hey, so be it. And I will also, one of the reasons why I don't worry about when games are scheduled is I'm looking at that A&M game this year, 6:30 on a Friday night. Well, guess what? Texas played A&M last year at 6:30 in College Station. Everybody's like, oh, it's going to be a night game in Kyle Field. Sit down. I mean, Texas, I'm not as big on the times of when games occur. The Vanderbilt game is interesting, though, 11 a.m. You know, it's going to be an early game, so we'll see what that means.
Yeah, so I'll take a couple of questions on this. F for fake. Georgia didn't have a good time in Lexington. I don't know whether it's a good Kentucky team will be any good. I don't think Kentucky is as talented as they have been, but I do think it's always a kind of a tough place to play for a highly ranked team. And that doesn't mean Mark Stoops has won a lot of games, but it's like Georgia was 13-12 last year, right? You can't, I think it was Bobby Bowden that said it, you can't emotionally get up for every game, and especially following Florida and Oklahoma. So it's one of those games that, you know, if Texas comes out and plays a B-plus game, it'll probably be a closer game than people would expect it to be. And it just, those are tough games and a tough place to get up for. Because the reality for these kids is when you're deciding between schools, you're deciding between Georgia and Ohio State and Texas and Florida and one other. Kentucky's not in the mix. Those kids, you can't get up for all these games. That's a place you do have to go play well, but I don't think they're as talented as they have been in the past.
Hey, that Kentucky game, Bobby Petronic, that's called bourbon, TF. Have y'all tried that Ryan Bingham bourbon, by the way? Anybody tried that? It's maybe one of my new ones. I'll just put it that way. Check it out. Ryan Bingham, the Yellowstone star country music guy.
Yep.
There you go. I don't drink much, Bobby, but you may want to try that one.
Okay, we got more questions, more to talk about this morning. I want to read a couple more super chats. Hopefully I get this right, Lou Dog. My apologies if I don't. But he says, OTF, today is my son Nakai's 21st birthday. He was actually born in Austin at St. David Hospital. Could you give him a shout out and I'll show him later? So happy birthday to your son, 21.
Happy birthday to Kai.
And
St. David's
then we have a super chat from Michael Schuler. He says, driving back to Leander from Plainview. So like Jerry, I'm living on the jerky right now. And Cruton is on my mind. I'm a really big fan of Jamarian Carlton. Jerry, do you have a comp for him?
It's got to be somebody with really long arms.
Probably Zena.
Probably who?
Zena from a frame standpoint. I think Zena's maybe the one. I think there's some similarities. I think Carlton may be a little thicker in his lower body than Zena was. But if I was just making one physically, that's who I'd go with right now. Because I do think there's a 83 4-inch wingspan component to those guys. So their upper body takes some time to fill out. But from a frame standpoint, that's where I would go. Yeah, roll left. I think he's a little thicker than Zena in the lower body. For sure, right now.
I just like long arms. It's hard to say this, but guys that have really long arms, they just cover more space, Jerry. Especially, and to me, that means more at defensive end, maybe, than any other position except perhaps wide receiver and cornerback. Those are the places where that wingspan can really. I guess at left tackle too. That's a big one. But wingspan is, I know it's not underrated, but it's more important than most people would be led to believe, in my opinion.
Zane Pettit, Charles Aminahu, we'll see. Not a bad one physically for him either. How much of Zena are we going to see this year? Speaking of Zena, Texas is very high on Zena. He hurt his thumb, missed most of spring. Which, he was going to get a ton of reps in the spring because Colton Vosick was out. So how much did that set him back? I don't know, but I can tell you this, Texas likes Zena quite a bit. Just got to stay healthy.
Then we have a super chat from Splendid Daddy, kind of going back to the whole scheduling deal. Thank you, Splendid Daddy. OU has a bye week and then a cupcake before Texas. Is that any reason for concern?
They've had that before. I think, of course, it's a reason for concern. But look, I don't know that. I don't know that Texas is going to have a schedule that's just perfect. I mean, I want to say that. So one of the things we always get caught up in, Jerry and Blake, and I think everybody will agree. What's the trap game in this season? What's the game that nobody's looking for that might be important this year? Last year, I think we all kind of, and I could be wrong, but I think we all said Kentucky was going to be the trap game. Get them at home, after a big game on the road. I mean, I don't know that really exists anymore in the SEC. I'll just say that because I think just about any of them can come up and bite you. Like if I was circling a trap game right now, the one I would say is Vanderbilt at home or Mississippi State on the road. Because those are teams that you should beat, right? That's the part about a trap game is teams you should beat. But OU, the thing about OU that you never have to worry about, it is extraordinarily rare that Texas ever comes out flat in that game. Either opponent comes out flat, frankly.
Yeah, my biggest thing with that game next year is Oklahoma got embarrassed last year. And so you're going to get
3 years ago, and then they came back the next year.
Yeah, that's the biggest thing that Oklahoma, more than schedule, anything else, is they got embarrassed last year. And Texas has been there too. When you get embarrassed, that next year, that team that embarrassed you, you get their absolute best shot. And that is what's going to be the build up to this game this year. Texas embarrassed them last year. That is as bad as Oklahoma could look on a football field. Well, maybe Navy would disagree. But when there's something on the line, well, I guess USC beat the dog, out of them in a national title game too. Maybe it's the second worst they could look on a football field. I guess the USC total beatdown of Oklahoma in the national title game would be number one. What was that game? Was that like 54-10?
No, it was like 49-21 or something, I think. I don't know. Well, I'll go look.
But yeah, but Texas is going to get Oklahoma's absolute best shot because they got embarrassed last year. No doubt.
All right. Well, yes, or I think it was actually this morning. ESPN came out with some power rankings, fellas, where they did. I don't even remember how many teams. It'd be tough.
They did every Power 4 team.
Okay, so there you go. It'd be tough to show everybody the complete rankings. I mean, they get really in depth. I'll actually drop that link in the chat here momentarily. But what I did do was create a table with the top 10 teams, along with a one-sentence summary, and kind of condensed it in. But they have Texas as number one, followed by Ohio State, Georgia, Oregon, Notre Dame rounds out the top 5. And then 6 through 10, Penn State, Clemson, LSU, Tennessee, and Alabama. But they feel very strongly about the Longhorns.
And I'm going to start this off again, which is the craziest thing about these rankings. New starting quarterback, new starting quarterback, new starting quarterback, new starting quarterback, new starting quarterback. 9 new starting quarterback, 10 new starting quarterback. Man, we live in different times in college football now because it's either a transfer or a new starter at all those programs. But really interesting. In your team 6, 7, and 8 are your quarterbacks that have the returning experience. But yeah, look, I think if I said this now and Ohio State beats Texas, it looks foolish. Ohio State lost so much. Georgia lost a lot. And I know people are really high on Georgia, but I talked to somebody very close to the Georgia program that, they predicted they could lose 4 games this year on that schedule. We'll see if that actually happens. Oregon, how much improved are they on defense? Because Josie's Ducks were not good on defense last year. Notre Dame, they have the best running back coming back in college football. Are they going to have and maybe the best running back group because the roles the other guys play? I know Penn State's 2 guys are really good too. But, Clemson, I think Clemson, Ohio State have the best wide receiver rosters, rooms in college football. And then Alabama has a lot of guys back off their team last year. I think Tennessee's going to end up being too high, by the way, on this list.
Way too high.
Yeah.
Hey, I just want to add, it's very interesting, this last little clause in the sentence they have about the University of Texas with a veteran staff and a veteran staff. 5 years with the same offensive coordinator, same defensive coordinator. Now they've added, layers to that through the years, but there's something to be said about the continuity of a coaching staff. I mean, Nebraska, Jerry, for 20 years felt like they never changed offensive or defensive coordinators, and they were the best team in the 90s in college football.
Yeah.
That has some value. I'll just put it that way.
And the other thing that's going to be so interesting looking at all these lists is how much of an impact does Tom Allen make defensively for Clemson? Because I think a lot's being Cade Klubnik's back. Yes, the receivers are back. Yes, they have 2 D linemen who are projected first, second round picks. And Dabo actually learned about this thing called the portal. But a lot is being placed on Tom Allen's plate. It's almost like he's the John Mateer of Clemson in a weird way. Like they're expecting him to come in and fix immediately a defense that was pretty bad last year. That if Cam Williams hadn't got hurt in the Clemson game, Texas might have rushed for 450. I mean, honestly, they might have, because they were averaging 15 yards a pop off the right side when he went down. And he was just collapsing the whole right side. That's a big jump defensively they're expecting Clemson to make to be a legitimate top 5 team. I'm very interested to see. But Tom Allen has as much on his plate as any transfer quarterback or new starting quarterback. The expectation is he's going to fix it immediately on defense. It's a big task. Maybe he will. We'll see. They got good enough players if they can put it together.
Well, we're going to get to some questions, but first, Bobby, I'm going to let you tell everyone about one of your favorite sponsors, Omaha Steaks.
Man, you could grill it up here. When it comes to Father's Day, some things never change. Dads want steak. A recent survey shows 75% of Americans agree there's no better way to spend Father's Day than grilling with the fam. From USDA certified tender steaks to burgers and more, Omaha Steaks delivers the world's best steak experience, guaranteed to secure your spot as dad's favorite. It's extraordinarily convenient. They deliver it straight to your house. If you've ever given Omaha Steaks as a gift or received them, I tell you what, it is it's a very welcome sight when it shows up at your front door in a styrofoam box, easily packed, everything ready to go. Omaha Steaks makes it easy to deliver an unforgettable gift for the best dad in the world. And when you shop online and pick up in store, it's never too late to find the perfect gift. Omaha Steaks offers unrivaled quality and variety, and every bite is backed by an unconditional 100% money back guarantee. Every steak perfectly aged to maximize tenderness and hand cut by master butchers. Omaha Steaks has been America's original butcher since 1917, a family-owned company with more than 100 years of expertise in the meat industry. They also carry mouth-watering burgers. I had the brisket burgers, guys, this past Sunday, and they were just good. Chicken, pork, seafood, dessert, and easy-to-prepare comfort food, as well as those award-winning steaks. This Father's Day, give Dad the world's best steak experience with Omaha Steaks. Visit omahasteaks.com for guaranteed perfect gifts that deliver legendary quality. And for an extra $35 off, use promo code ONTEXAS at checkout. That's omahasteaks.com and use promo code ONTEXAS for an extra $35 off at checkout. See site for more details. Really, really enjoy this product. Maybe too much at times.
Hey, Blake, I'm going to hit a couple of questions here real quick. Some quick hitters. Cade Miller. Oh, I want to answer this question, chat. Guys taking a vacation at Gulf Shores, Alabama next week. What's the go-to spots? There is a go-to spot. Floribama. Go enjoy. There's music. They have 3 different stages for live music. It's the best bar ever to watch SEC football. You won't have that. Maybe they'll have some replay on. That is a great, great spot. This is an interesting question. Andrew DeShazer, and I have an answer to this that's not what you're thinking. Who scares you more, OU or A&M? You know what scares me the most in that question? Eli Manning in overalls at A&M.
Did y'all see that yesterday? Did everybody see that? I mean, Eli Manning, apparently he's got a new show coming out this fall called Eli's Places, or maybe it's an existing one. And he literally was with he was not in the White Milkman part, at least, Jerry, but he was with I get, what are they, Yell Leaders?
Yeah, I don't know.
It was an odd look. I'll just put it that way. I don't know.
I'm trying to find the picture.
Yeah, it's I can send it to you, Blake, if you need me to.
I got it.
Eli might have had it taken down already.
I got it. Hang on.
Scrub the net.
Here it is.
Oh, God.
Eli is the one in the non-white.
Hey, Arch, I know you listen to this show every day. Not. But if you're listening today, you don't ever let him live this down. I don't care if he's getting paid on the show or not.
In Eli's defense, he was in Austin earlier this week filming an episode at Texas as well. So.
I hope he wasn't wearing that.
But he was definitely not wearing that. You are 100% correct.
Is that Eli's first time ever wearing overalls since he was like a baby at 3?
I can tell you this. I went to Isidore Newman, 2 or 3 times to see Arch. I never saw anybody in overalls, so I'm going to go with yes.
Yeah. That's a very preppy school.
Yeah.
Nothing against overalls. My grandfather wore overalls every day I ever saw him.
No, I love it. I think the show's going to be pretty funny. I think Eli's a really funny guy. I'm just glad they didn't pull a sword on him and chase him around the field.
You watch the Manning cast, Jerry, and I do the same thing sometimes. He's got an easy sense of humor.
Yes.
You know what I mean? He doesn't take the world too seriously. Kind of refreshing. Peyton, however, takes the world very seriously at times. It's almost hard to believe they come from the same 2 parents, right?
Yeah.
I mean,
totally different personalities.
Yeah. They throw the football really well.
Yeah.
They have that but their affects and their demeanors are very, very different.
All right, we got a super chat here from Devon. I'm sorry, one of the two, I'm sure. Became a dad a week ago, and this is my first time joining while nap trapped. Hook 'em to all the dads out there ahead of Father's Day. Well, first, congratulations.
Congrats. I don't know if you're related to Quandre Diggs, but you should try to get a baby gift from him. He'll probably give you a sports car or something for the kid.
Quandre is too busy playing EA's college football right now. I don't know if you know that, but he's out there talking about how this player is this and the new plays, etc. Quandre is a big gamer.
And then let's see.
We have a bunch of recruiting questions, guys. We haven't started. We're going to get to those during the show, just so y'all know.
Let's actually jump over to those because we're done with the super chats. And we are going to start with this one from Drew. He says, Jerry, what do we have to do to get Drake Quinn and Calicut in the fold? Thank you.
Drake Quinn's one of my favorite recruitments in this cycle because he is not the most highly ranked guy, but his recruitment is all college football playoff teams from last year. It's Notre Dame, it's Georgia, it's Clemson, it's Tennessee, and it's Texas. So whether he's ranked an 89 high 3-star or a top 150-ish in the country, the college coaches clearly think he's a top 100 player in America. And I think his tape is tremendous. We watched it a few times. Texas had a great visit in April with him, and I'm interested to see where this official visit goes this weekend. I think Texas has a legitimate shot. This is him at Greater Atlanta Christian and Norcross last year. He has since transferred to Buford High, by the way, so he'll be playing opposite Bryce Perry Wright for Buford, along with their other 8 Division I players on defense this year. But I think this guy's one of the better edge prospects in the country. Rankings be damned. He is really talented. And this is an interesting recruitment again because Kenny Baker and Josh Dunson, for those that haven't heard me talk about this before, both of their fathers were longtime head coaches in the Atlanta area.
So, hey, wait. So a lot of people are going to be familiar with Kenny Baker, Jerry, the defensive line coach at Texas. Tell them who Josh Dunson is.
He was the former GM at Memphis. He's now in the recruiting department at Texas. But he's from the Atlanta area, and their dads were longtime head coaches in the Atlanta area. So those guys have a lot. There's a know everybody on a staff at some level in high school. So does that mean you're going to get the guy? No. But does it mean you can get in the door with a lot of guys? Absolutely. And I think you're seeing that's one of the reasons you're seeing more and more kids from Georgia visit Texas. I mean, this weekend, you have Xavier Griffin, you have Rouse, the linebacker, you have Drake Quinn, you have Bryce Perry. I mean, that's 4 guys from Georgia right there this weekend. And Kezzie Kent.
Kezzie Kent is 5.
Yep. And so there's more guys from Georgia officially visiting Texas than ever before. And I think there's more connections, even with the Tashard Choice leaving. There's more long-term connections in the state of Georgia due to Kenny Baker and Josh Dunson. And Aaron Joe was the GM at Georgia Tech as well. There's more connections in Atlanta and Georgia than ever before on this Texas staff. So it's going to be a fascinating recruitment. I think Texas feels like they're right there. We'll see. Oh, Chase Calicut?
Yeah.
At Michigan this weekend. He flipped his official visit to Texas to last weekend. He visited Georgia. There's been a lot of Georgia chatter. We'll see if he goes far from home.
And then
hey, Jerry, I want to ask about Chase Calicut real quick. People were asking for comparisons for him. You have one for him. He's so long. Is he a DeMarvion Overshown type?
Right, frame-wise, yes.
More Isaiah Simmons size?
I think frame-wise, he's an Overshown type.
Okay.
And I'm not comparing him as a player. I would say frame-wise, he is very similar to that because he is there's people at North Shore who have coached there 2 decades that think linebacker or close to the line of scrimmage is his future. So that is, I kind of see that. I kind of agree with him on that. And I think the closer he is to the line of scrimmage, the better player he is. but his frame is really long, and he's got a lot of runway on that frame. He can easily be 230, 235.
And our next question this morning comes from Jedi Master Bevo. And he says, hey, guys, is it possible to make a graphic with not only the names of this weekend's visitors, but also the dates they will announce their commitments? And Jedi, I got you halfway covered there. We got an updated graphic. Jerry, I'm going to let you kind of go over this. As you can see, the official visitors for June 13th weekend.
Yeah, Jalen Lott, obviously, son of James Lott. We've had him on the show before. That's a high jumping family, by the way. Sister runs track at USC. He was at USC last week, and he's at Texas this week, and he's Oregon on the 20th. He also has LSU in the mix there. So we'll see what happens with that one. I think he's a little bit more of a wild card, but Texas is all in on recruiting him at wide receiver. I think that matters. Jabari Mack, I'm not sure he'll be in. Hezzy Kent, and I'm not saying we'll see on Jabari Mack. Hezzy Kent, obviously, the 5 official visits are Texas, Florida, Georgia Tech, Florida State. I think Texas and Florida is where this decision could come from on Hezzy Kent. So I think the official visit for Texas is big. When I was through there in May, I thought Texas may slightly lead for Hezzy Kent. I think Florida feels like they have a legitimate shot there. So I think it could come down to Texas, Florida. Felix Ojo canceled to Oklahoma. I think really this is Texas, Ohio State. We'll see if Texas Tech has a if they have any, maybe they make him a softball offer. But if they make a big NIL play there, but I think Texas has been at a good spot. Zayden Crimpin, as long as the state close to home is in play there. Michigan's the 4th school. I think Texas could be the team to beat. Now there's a bit of change. Samuel Roseborough at the bottom there is now coming in this weekend as well on the offensive line. So 3 offensive linemen. He was at A&M last weekend. Zayden Crimpin was at A&M last weekend as well. Damari Simeon, total wild card recruitment, but Texas loves him. I think this guy's a stud, by the way. I think he's tremendous. Out of St. Augustine Prep in New Jersey, 6'2.5", 289. He's already OV'd to Michigan and Penn State. He has Texas this week and Ohio State on the 20th. Vodney Cleveland, if it stays out of state theme with him, it's going to be Florida or Texas. Auburn's the 3rd school. North Carolina, maybe your sleeper there. Bryce Perry Wright visited Miami last weekend, Texas this week. He's already been to Clemson. I think he's a distant relative of Grady Jarrett. He has A&M scheduled on the 20th. I could see that going a number of ways, but I will tell you this, his circle is in contact with Texas a lot. So there's some positives there. We just talked about Dre Quinn. Jake Krull is visiting. He's originally from Orlando Bishop Moore High School. He's now at IMG. Obviously, you see Florida's a team to beat there. He's got Oklahoma on the 20th. Xavier Griffin. I think Texas is in a pretty good spot for the 5-star headed into this visit. He's already been to Ohio State and Alabama. Decision on June 29th. Braden Rouse, love him as a prospect. Plays for the Longhorns in high school, the Kell Longhorns. Texas, Tennessee are the 2 mentioned most. Alabama's in it. He also visited Michigan. I think it'll go the way of the SEC, barring an upset. Samari Matthews was Texas leading Clemson early May. He knocked Clemson out. I think they have 4 DB commits. Went to Miami instead. Miami obviously put their best 17 feet forward in that recruitment. He was at FSU last week. He's got South Carolina on the 20th. Right now, he's scheduled to announce the first week of August. I think Texas could prevail there, but we'll see where the official visit goes. Mentioned Samuel Roseborough this weekend. So these are 2 big official visit weekends coming up. I put the updated list for June 20th, 21st, 22nd on TexasFootball.com. Obviously, we're not going to go over that today, but if you want to see that updated list, it's up to 21 official visitors right now. That's on OTF.com. And by the way,
list too, Jerry.
Do what?
I don't think you mentioned Yaheem Riley because he's already committed. But I go back to him. I think that young man's going to surprise some people once he gets on campus.
Hey, Blake, we were talking about Eli earlier, and I'm just glad this didn't happen to him.
Oh, you mean this?
Yeah, man. You got to be careful, man. You got to be careful. Oh, whoa. Yeah, that's the A&M guy, whatever he's called, the core guy, pulling a sword live on SMU cheerleaders during a game in the 80s. To this day, one of the funniest things I've ever seen on a college football field.
Was it funny to the SMU guy? I don't think it was very funny getting a sword pulled on you.
I think the core guy got concussed because that AstroTurf back then was like concrete.
Oh yeah, he may have gotten concussed. Yeah,
yeah. We need to try to get that sword guy on the show. You think he'd come on the show?
I'll do my best. I'll see if I can identify him. Jerry, if you'd be so kind to let everyone know about Goodr this morning.
Yes, I can. I will tell you about Goodr. My favorite glasses on planet Earth. Stylish sunny, starting only $25 a pair. 1 year free warranty, 30-day free returns. Lightweight, comfortable, 100% polarized. No slip, no bounce. Vibrant colors to sleek styles. There's a pair of Goodrs for every personality out there, designed for both everyday wear and active individuals. And that gets you to where would you wear your Goodrs, why and where? On a run, going to the beach, playing tennis, playing pickleball, on a hike, driving in the Texas heat for hours, doing anything, cycling, golfing. If you're going, or anybody going to the U.S. Open to watch these guys hack it around the rough, well, you can do that with your Goodrs on. If you do it with your Texas Goodrs on, Scotty Scheffler will probably give you a high five because they're so affordable. You don't have to worry about losing or breaking them. You can have a pair for every single occasion. If you need a new pair of sunnies, Goodr is giving On Texas football listeners free shipping. You can go to goodr.com/OnTexas and use that code On Texas for free shipping. They offer a 30-day money-back guarantee. You don't need, I got to read it, and 1,000% satisfaction. Again, that's goodr.com/OnTexas for free shipping.
Scheffler needs to wear that this weekend for the U.S. Open.
Man, somebody mentioned it. It's the somebody shooting 95 this week. And the somebody who shoots 95 this week on this course, it's so brutal, is probably going to be somebody who's won on the PGA Tour before. Somebody's going to have, yeah, there's going to be a total meltdown this week. The rough is unbelievable. Unbelievable.
Where is it? Where is it at? Where is it being held?
It's Oakmont in Pennsylvania. I mean, it's brutal. It's like there's somebody's going to lose it mentally and shoot 90 plus, maybe 95 this week. I can see it.
Yeah, I would be very, very happy with that score personally.
Me too.
I would take that and go home.
If somebody goes like 3 for 14 on the driving and they only hit three fairways in a round because the greens are total like running 16 on the stimp. It's like hitting it on glass or concrete. You can't stop the ball in the green, so you're going to go from heavy rough. From the second cut of rough, heavy rough, to heavy rough around the greens. You're not going to be able to get it close. If somebody seriously goes 3 of 14 hitting fairways in a round and they kind of lose it upstairs, there's going to be somebody over 90 plus this week. I can almost guarantee you.
Well, KJ says it's my birthday today. OTF family, happy birthday to you, KJ. Thanks for celebrating with us right here on Coffee and Football. And then Roll Left says every year it seems we have a star of the class. Who would be that player this year for Texas?
Diabell. He's just been committed so long. He's not in the state of Texas. 5-star ranked quarterback. Gatorade Player of the Year from Florida, the first for Texas. I think there was the Gatorade Player of the Year and did it his junior season. I think it's Diabell. We'll see what it ends up being on signing day. There's some candidates, but because Diabell's been committed so long, I think it's lost how big it actually was.
You forget about him.
Yep.
You forget about. And by the way, KJ said it's their birthday. Guess what? You also now have a player at Texas named KJ and KJ Lacey.
There you go.
In the previous year. Mine, Jerry, I'm just looking through this list. I guess I would go with Diabell. Here's my question. Okay. Jermaine Bishop is athletically gifted as you're going to get, right? Do you think his size, even despite his size, it's even going to play on the next level? Because that's the one thing you worry about, really smaller guys, 5'11", 155. Is his size going to play at the next level?
Yeah, because he is Devontae Smith, Xavier Worthy tough.
So he's not – I mean, I don't mean this, but Deshaun Hales was a smaller guy coming out of Klein Oak that looked terrific in high school, but size really got him when he got to college. Bishop's built a little differently or wired differently.
Yeah, I think so. And I think he's a guy that'll, in person, even though he weighs probably 160 right now, he's almost 6 feet tall. He's going to have a little more thickness to his lower body, I think, once he fills out, seeing him in person a couple times. So I think he's like where Devontae Smith is, right? What's 162 at the NFL Combine, 164. Somebody can look that up. I think he's going to be a little bigger. I could see him actually getting a 172, a little bigger than Worthy and Devontae Smith in the lower body.
Our next question this morning comes from Living Rent Free in UT. He says, are all of the current commits, of course, we saw Yaheem Riley this weekend, but the rest of them, are they coming in on the 20th?
There's a majority of them. Let's see. If I can just cite this off of memory. Diabell is, Chris Stewart is, and some guys like Kohen Brown said last night, he's coming back on the 20th. So even guys that committed, that already visited, I think may come back unofficially on the 20th. Nick Robertson is, Max Wright is. There's a few, so not all of them, but there's a few coming in. Like I don't know if, obviously the 3 specialists all visited last weekend. Yaheem Riley's this weekend, so that takes 4 out of the boat right there. But I think the majority are Kohen Brown, obviously. Dylan Berryman's coming back that weekend. So if that's what you're referring to, I think a lot of those guys will be back that next weekend.
And then
It's going to be a party in Austin, Texas.
21 official visitors right now.
And then Dakota Moody says, will this be the largest recruiting class under Sark so far? We've already got 13 committed, and I count that we'll probably take at least 16 more. But am I counting wrong?
But Jerry and I were talking about this. We actually, during the state of the program yesterday, if y'all watched that, it was in large part like what's left on the recruiting board, right? Like now that Texas is at 13, well, three of those are specialists. So really, I mean, from a nuts and bolts perspective, Texas is at 10 commitments. We thought that Texas, based on where they're at and what they want, it would be up to 30. That was the number. What they will get may be between 25 and 28. So if you take the specialists out of that, I think you're going to end up between 25 to 27 is without specialists. And I'm not trying to minimize their position on the team. It's just I'm talking about nuts and bolts players, offense, defense type stuff. That's where we came out at, which is one of the larger classes. I think Sark signed 1 year a 29 player class.
The Arch Manning class was 28 or 29.
Yeah, and so it's going to be up there. I don't know that it'll be ginormous or anything like that. What's interesting, and Jerry and I were talking about this, Texas does not have a lot of seniors on their current roster. So there's likely going to be some attrition coming. We'll have to see what all it means and what it looks like, though.
And then a couple of people have asked about Kendall Gravel, Jerry, including Zane Petty. He wants to know, how does Texas look for Kendall right now?
I think Texas looks good for Kendall. Now, I will say this. This is a big weekend. So Texas is really battling. What's this is coming down to for me, Texas, Georgia, and Florida are in on a lot of same guys. So this weekend, and I'll post something tomorrow, like where Texas targets are visiting out that aren't visiting Texas. This weekend at Florida is Kendall Gerville, Trent James Johnson, both coming in June 20th, the defensive lineman from Fort Myers and then Miami Northwestern, Trenton Henderson, and Caden Prothrow. So all 4 of those guys are scheduled to be at Texas next weekend. So this is a big weekend for Florida to battle and try to keep some of their D linemen in that state home. That's a pretty big weekend for Florida. So Texas gets the last visit on Kendall Gerville, which they've had the whole time. And I think Texas, Georgia, Florida in that order going into the Florida visit is where it's at. James Johnson He's visiting Texas on his birthday weekend. What does it mean? I don't know. It may mean a lot, may mean nothing. Probably not a bad place to have a party. But I think Miami, he's at Florida. He's been to Georgia. Trenton Henderson did not visit Georgia. It's been, if he makes it back to Texas for an OV, Florida, Auburn, LSU, Michigan. But there's a lot of, we talked about Dre Quinn, who's visited Texas and Georgia. Bryce Perry Wright's out there. He visited Miami, Clemson. But there's a lot of Florida, Georgia. But it's a big weekend. We always talk about the big weekends for Texas. Florida has a big weekend this weekend because those 3 D linemen are 3 of the very, very best, if not the 3 best in their state. They got to make some headway this weekend before those guys make last official visits.
Well, we got some team-related questions that we're going to get to here momentarily. But first, Bobby, I'm going to let you tell everyone about Vaughn Lane one last time.
Yeah, talk about teamwork. Vaughn Lane, they get you where you need to go on time, and they get you there hassle-free. So if you're tired of the hassle of flying or driving in Texas, driving yourself on I-35, I-45, or I-10, we all know it's stressful. Airports, if you're going to fly, long lines, security can be nuts, cramped seats. Just getting to your destination feels exhausting. Next time you need to travel between Austin, Dallas, Houston, Fort Worth, or San Antonio, skip the stress and ride Vaughn Lane. Your private jet on wheels arrived just minutes before departure at one of Vaughn Lane's centrally located luxurious hotel partners. Settle into your spacious reclining seat with tons of legroom and personal space. Enjoy complimentary snacks, drinks, Wi-Fi, and even meals on select departures, all while you sit back and relax. Experience travel the way it should be. Visit vaughnlane.com. Use promo code OTF25 for $20 off your first trip. Vaughn Lane, first class travel without the hassle.
Well, as I said, we do have team-related questions. We're going to jump into this one here from Forrest. And Forrest asks, fellas, has Sark had a tight end as versatile as Jack Indries before?
Ooh, I think that's a fair question. I think that Gunnar Helm may be as versatile, if not more so, because Gunnar was also an H-back sniffer and then played more in line. As a junior, he's more of H-back sniffer, and then he played more in line as a senior. I think that Helm is probably a little more versatile than Indries. Doesn't mean that Indries isn't going to be. Indries could be a better overall player now. That's remains to be seen. I mean, the word "could" is the operative one there. I think he's really, really talented. Let's see what happens this year and how Texas uses him. One thing that's going to be tested fairly quickly with Indries will be blocking in line. You know, that's going to have to be something that he gets used to pretty quickly.
And then our next question this morning, if I can get this to cooperate here, comes from Michael Golden. And he says, who's our quarterback after Arch? Do you have any prediction?
They're not asking for where it is right now. Where it is right, by the way, somebody asked me on the message board the other day, Jerry, has KJ Lacey overtaken Trey Owens as the number 2 quarterback? The answer is no. Doesn't mean he won't eventually. But as of right now, Trey Owens is number 2. Actually, it's going to be Trey Owens versus Matthew Caldwell, the new guy they got in the portal, former starting quarterback.
Yeah, the plan's always been for KJ to redshirt.
Yeah, exactly. So who starts after Arch Manning? Well, you're probably, and Jerry always says this, you're probably looking 2 years hence.
Yeah.
So not next, you're not looking really at 2026, you're looking at 2027. And at that point, is it KJ Lacey versus Diabell, in your opinion, Jerry, with Trey Owens most likely or possibly transferring after this year if Arch doesn't go? What are your thoughts there? I mean, I don't know.
I think it's hard to say right now. It's impossible to say.
There'll be a lot of water under the bridge before we get there.
Yeah. It's going to come down to patience. Who has patience?
Great point.
Okay, well, and here's the reality, I think, of college football right now. Texas is up big on UTEP. Trey Owens plays the fourth quarter and goes 8 of 10 for 130 yards. He's a $2 million guy in the portal.
Yep. Yeah.
And it doesn't really matter if he's proven or not. If he shows really well in the fourth quarter of a game, he becomes a wanted man in the portal. And if somebody throws 7 figures at you in the portal as a quarterback, you better take it.
If Jackson Arnold can get it, Trey Owens should be able to get it. That's my point.
Yep.
And then I'm going to use this question to tie into a question that you actually asked everybody, Bobby, but we're going to start with Zane Petty's question. He says, are we concerned about Arkansas as a track game between Georgia and Texas A&M?
I'm not, because I think the fans are here's the difference between trap games for me. Late in the season, if there's a lot on the line, there are no trap games. Kentucky is the one because it comes after Florida and OU, and you can't it's hard to get up emotionally 3 weeks in a row. It's easier to get up emotionally for Arkansas because your fan base is going to be up emotionally for Arkansas when they come to town. So I don't think it's a trap game at all. And it should be a lot on the line for Texas. If you can't get up for a game with a lot on the line, you're probably not as good as you think you are.
Vanderbilt at 11 a.m. feels like a trap game to me.
Yeah.
More so, if Pavia is healthy, that's going to be a scrap. If you're not ready for a scrap,
yeah,
he'll get you. We'll see. They lost quite a bit in the portal, by the way.
And Pavia's got to be healthy by that time too.
Yes.
The guy does not play a healthy brand of football.
No, not at all.
He's a UFC
I don't know that he has a healthy. I don't know that he has a healthy lifestyle. Let's put it that way.
He's a UFC fighter with a football in his hands.
Yeah. He's like a better version of Steven Garcia, the old South Carolina.
Yeah.
All right, Bobby, you asked this on the OTF community page on our YouTube channel, and I want to close with this. You said, what will be the toughest road game for the Longhorns this season? And you gave 4 options: Ohio State, Florida, Oklahoma, and Georgia. And it was pretty close between Georgia and Ohio State. 47% of people chose Georgia, 40% Ohio State, 11% Florida, and then just 2% OU out of over 2,500 votes.
Yeah, obviously OU is a neutral site, but I called it a road game because they outside of Austin. I'm not really surprised by this, the 2 that stood out. Are you, Jerry, at all?
No.
I do think that Florida is underregarded. I think that a lot of people Florida is one deep right now. Very, very talented. Very, very talented. And that game is earlier in the year. So I think it's not so much whether it's Ohio State or Georgia for me. I think both are national prominent programs that are going to have great players. I think Florida is just underrated in that aspect. And I think Oklahoma would be a tougher game than that as well. But that would be my take on that.
Somebody's asking what time's the Florida kickoff. It's a flex and Georgia's flex. I think Georgia, and I get where the fan base is on this because the way Georgia physically played against Texas the last 2 years, and it's at Georgia, and people know that Georgia may have on their schedule they could have 1 loss, they could have 2 losses on that schedule going into that game. But Kirby, because of what's going on in recruiting in the SEC, and Nick Saban's retired, Kirby's going to have his guys up for the Texas game. And the Georgia fan base is going to be up for that game because Texas is seen as the team that can knock them off their SEC throne. Fair or not, Texas is the team that's seen that. Now, Florida maybe has a chance to do that a little bit to Georgia on the field this year, but that takes a little longer. Texas is seen as the team by Georgia fans and Kirby Smart as the biggest threat to them in the SEC right now. So I think that creates as crazy of an environment as Georgia can provide. And Kirby will have his guys up for that game. For the Texas team, I think it's Ohio State because it's the first time starters for the offensive line. Arch's first road start. Ohio State, it can be a really rough place to play even at 11. I think for the team, it may be Ohio State. But I get where the fans are coming from.
All right. Well, that's going to do it for today's episode of Coffee and Football presented by Vaughn Lane. We want to thank Vaughn Lane along with Omaha Steaks and Goodr for sponsoring today's show. Bobby, what do you have later today?
Later today, we have a couple different things coming up. Rod and CJ and Coach Shipley going to be on for the winning drive. We also have football theory coming. And there could be a little surprise going on today that we may be able to talk about. But other than that, we're setting the stage for a big recruiting weekend for the Longhorns. 5 commitments in the last week for Texas. They're at 13 commitments overall. Guys start coming in for your official visits on Friday. Jerry, CJ, going to be covering that as deeply as possible. Make sure you join us at ontexasfootball.com. Become an OG, part of the community with us there. Use promo code OTFOG. This is for first-time subscribers only. You get $39.95 for the year. That's $20 off the regular subscription price. Again, use promo code OTFOG. Join us and be an OG over at ontexasfootball.com.
Well, we will be back same time, same place tomorrow morning. So for Bobby Burton and Jerry Hamilton, I'm Blake Monroe, and we'll see you then.